Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Outliers YouTube and podcast series and our program Get to Know. I'm your host, DP Lyle. Kathy Antrim is off on a boat somewhere, so we're missing her today. I don't know where she is, but sailing into the sunset somewhere. Um,
That sounds
today,
nice.
today we're going to have fun because we have a return guest, a lot of fun, Jessica Balboni. Jessica, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, she was here surrounded by a couple of DEA agents, and I
Tough
think to
guys.
protect me as much as her last time. So I think
It's
I,
nice knowing that I have protection for life. Now that this
exactly.
is this is my third book with DEA agents, it's just like built-in
Yeah.
security pretty much till the end of time.
It's good. Well, let's talk a little bit about how you got into the literary world. Let's start with, how you grew up and what things you think about your growing up and childhood and all that led you to do this, all the way up to getting, well, a degree in English lit. So,
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm bummed not to get to officially meet Kathleen.
yep.
I wanted to talk to her about the fact that Lee Child gave her that glowing review. My father loves Lee Child, so I was like, I
Yeah.
guess the book is Capital Offense, right? Her book.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
I'm going to have to buy that. I know she has others.
We know where Lee lives, so he's given us both blurbs. So.
Oh my God, lucky you.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
thought you and I said last time that the next time we spoke, we were just going to devote everything to Elmore Leonard, but I'll
Yeah,
let you.
pretty much. We
Yeah, we should. Well,
we
let's give
should.
him some time at some
About
point.
about
Um,
to the master, yes.
yes, exactly. And also, I want to talk to you about baseball because I did my recon. I know your whole history.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think the question more about my childhood is like, I know you guys always ask, what is it in your childhood that made you become a writer? And for
Yeah.
me, it's kind of like it was inevitable. My mother is a British literature and poetry professor. My father is a journalist and businessman of 60 plus years, I think it is this year. So I basically came out of the womb being given like, a Hamlet blue book. Remember the blue books, like
Yes, I do.
essays to correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, to look at. But it wasn't, the lovely thing was that at a very early age, my parents divorced when I was quite young. So I was with adults a lot. And I was an only child for quite a long time, for almost 19 years until my dad remarried. And so I was always around adults. And so while I was exposed to a lot of kind of more sophisticated reading material, i.e., Hamlet,
Mhm.
Beowulf, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, not your typical
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
elementary school fare.
No.
Um, I also got to get comic books on the weekend, with my dad if I read a couple books. And back at my mother's house, she'd be grading papers, but she'd also be watching Dynasty. And I think that that instilled in me an acceptance of, there is no guilty pleasure. A good book is a good book. A good song is a good song.
Yep.
I don't judge other things. And I think that that is an approach that has kind of worked well throughout my life. And, I just was one of those people who naturally gravitated toward writing and reading. Any class that I took, I loved it. Any other class that I was bored in, I wouldn't put in the effort required, really.
Yep.
Not
Yep.
necessarily a natural born academic in that way, but just writing came so naturally to me. And I'm so grateful to my parents for that because they were very proactive, much more so even than a lot of my friends about giving me books and having me read books. But luckily, I wanted to.
Yep.
Um,
And so when you went to college, the obvious choice there for majors, I'm assuming, was English lit or something in that arena.
yeah, I didn't mess around. I just went straight. I just
Yeah.
went
Yeah.
straight to English literature. By the way, the other plus I had working on my side was that I was an only child, like I said. So
Yep.
way back in the day, back in my day, you didn't have cell phones to entertain you. So it was kind of
Right.
like a book or marbles.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd go that far back.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I
you know what I
remember
mean.
marbles well.
Marbles, little bag of
Yes.
marbles. People are going to be like, marbles? What the hell are you
Yeah.
talking
What are you talking about? Yeah.
about? Look it up. So yeah, when I got to Georgetown, I was thrilled because I took so many fantastic classes, had so many fantastic professors. There was a little word going in that it was going to be too rigid, that they were going to force some kind of philosophy on me religiously or otherwise. Wasn't like that at all. Had some of the greatest teachers. I was just talking the other day about, I had a playwriting professor named Don Murphy who had been there for something like 50 years. He had
Mm,
been summoned by Jackie O to the White House when she was first lady to kind of help her flesh out, certain events and things she was going to do and what kind of plays she was going to, and then also under his uh, tenure, he taught everybody from John Guare, whom I met later and got to talk about him with, and Pat Buchanan. So, I mean, it doesn't
mhm.
get more insanely diverse than
Right,
that. And
exactly.
he was just a real inspiration to me. And from there,
Yeah.
I just loved it.
Well, before you got on your pathway, before you got to being an author editor, uh, you had an interesting career. You did a lot of
Yeah.
different things in all kinds of media. So tell
Yeah.
us about some of those.
Yeah, I hit the ground running when I moved to New York City. I worked in magazines first. One of the first things I did was I kind of muscled my way in when I was temping at Esquire, and I asked if I could read the unsolicited fiction. And back
Mhm.
then, Esquire, they had some amazing, they were really right up there with the New Yorker and anybody else with really great fiction. So I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. And in
Yeah,
retrospect,
people think of Esquire as something else, but Esquire was actually in the forefront of short
yeah,
stories and articles and stuff. They were phenomenal back then.
phenomenal. And I'm a
Yeah.
huge short story person, absolutely huge
Mhm.
short story
Yep.
person. So it really, when I reflect, which I don't do often, but now looking back, seeing that I sought that out while I was doing something totally different at the magazine, I should have known a long time ago what I was meant to do. But it was one of those typical
Mhm.
things where I let like decades pass and I did a bunch of other things. No regrets. It all, built up to this. But I did primarily work in media. I worked at the Food Network. That was incredible. I worked for Carol O'Connor for a short time. That's a whole other story. The Rockefeller Foundation. Um,
That was fascinating. The Rockefeller Foundation's, I bet, was a fantastic job.
it was pretty cool. I have to say
Yeah.
the official offices were right by my apartment in Midtown Manhattan, but our satellite offices were in Soho, and
Mhm.
it was the coolest time to be there because it was like right on the cusp of being gentrified. So met
Mhm.
one of my best friends for life there, and she and I shared an office. It was just a tiny little place, and had a blast going around and we gave out 30 grants a year, and so got to work with incredible filmmakers, documentary makers, installation artists. I mean, it was just a dream. And then I wound up at ESPN, which, much like doing books with DEA
Mhm.
agents, I didn't really see coming. And I loved that as well. And so that was just a whole other universe and world. And then, like I said the last time I spoke, I was kind of a pandemic cliche and realized what I really should be doing with my life and started my own business when I was
Yeah.
still living in New York City through the pandemic, which was a super fun time as we Midtown New York was the best place to be
Yeah.
for for the pandemic.
Yeah. It was better here than Southern California. Everybody was locked down because, they demanded it. Um, yeah, you mentioned Soho, one of the maybe top five restaurants in the entire world is in Soho.
Balthazar.
Il Molino.
Oh, Il Molino, look
Oh
at
yeah.
you. Yeah.
I love El Molino. Ooh.
Oh my
What a
God.
fabulous
Wow.
place. But
Yeah.
anyway, so you moved on into writing and editing and all of that, and I obviously brought all of your experience from all these different hats that you've worn to this.
Yeah. Pretty
And so
diverse background.
what kind of stuff have you worked on? I mean, I know about some of the stuff with the DEA things and find After Escobar, which is a fantastic book.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
What
that.
else have you what else have you worked on? Um,
Well, right off the bat,
like right there. See, there you go.
there it is. Look at that.
Yep. Chris
It's,
and Dave and you and just
I
so our
still,
listeners to know, go back into the YouTube and the podcast and find this episode where the three of us chatted, and
we had fun.
it was fantastic.
I especially love
Oh,
the fact that I called them old bags within the
yeah,
first 5 minutes.
exactly,
That's
exactly. Nothing like endearing yourself.
exactly. I
Yeah,
can tell
yeah,
too, because I don't think I was laughing. Some people were probably like,
well,
what's
yeah,
wrong with this broad?
exactly.
Um, so when I started the business, first I started kind of freelancing, and I will still do copy edits for, mystery novels or different novels like that, to kind of turn a buck. And as most writers do, as they're starting a business and, kind of on the side. But I really got thrown it was just a fortuitous thing into working with Dave Gaddis.
Hmm.
Also, you had him on the show as well,
Right.
my beloved Dave Gaddis. And he's kind of the one that started it all. I mean, that took about a year and a half, I think, working on the book with him. Um,
And you worked on the Noble Experiment. Was that the one?
exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
with
yeah.
my co-editor, Misha Haight, who is just a lovely, there's that.
There's that.
That was really, I would say, my first, kind of big book. And that was a real, talk about a learning experience, because that was really the first time I kind of, got into the stories of the DEA and
Yeah.
all of that.
And I
And
tell everybody, all our listeners, go back and find that one. It's very recent. That's
yeah,
up on YouTube and all our podcast things. My interview with Dave, because he told some war stories, and I tell you, he's got some crazy ones.
he has got some crazy
Yeah,
stories. That book was so much fun to work
I
on.
bet.
It's more of a memoir. After Escobar is entirely different, of course. But Dave himself was so much fun, and we got
Mhm.
along so great. As if you're working on a memoir with somebody, you get to know all about them, and they about you, and you get very close. And so you better like one another. If not,
Yeah,
it's going to be a miserable experience for you both. But the benefit to that was that I then went on to do two more DEA books. I think I
right.
really honestly would have been screwed had I gone right into After Escobar knowing nothing about that world. But I was so
Yeah.
well steeped by that point that, the amount of kind of like fact checking or things I would have had to run by Chris, or, it would have been insane because it's so
Mhm.
dense with information. Um, and there's
So
so
let me
much.
ask you this, because this is the curious question. When you talk about editors and what editors do, and I want to talk about that. Um, and people they usually are thinking of fiction when they're thinking about that. I gotta get my novel edited so I can put it up on Amazon and make $1 million, that kind of thing. But when you're doing a nonfiction book,
Good luck with that.
how's it different?
Um,
What's the approach as an editor's point of view in taking some factual stories, and then how do you massage them to make them stories?
I really personally don't see much of a difference, but this process was very unique. The way that, that Chris and I worked, would have an original kind of draft that I would take and essentially write or rewrite or whatever was happening. And we would go through as many as 7 or 8 drafts per chapter.
Hmm.
And I developed a process for my clients too, whereby once I give them back something, they will take the clean version as opposed to the tracked. And I won't get too deep into, the woods on this because it's boring, but they know the process to bring it back to me with added things and removed things, and we'll go back and forth and back and forth. But really, it's pretty much the same. I mean, editing is a complicated thing to describe to people. There's developmental, there's proofreading, there's copy. There are like 4 or 5 levels. And sometimes people don't understand that if you're talking about a line edit, they might think you're just kind of going through and correcting semicolons or something like that. It could be rewriting every single sentence. I mean, it could be maddening, especially if you're working with a non-author.
Then the structure, syntax, all that, word
Everything,
choice, rhythm,
literally. Oh
tie,
my
everything,
God.
all of it.
Absolutely. It's mad. In fact, most editors will not do that because it's just not worth it. But I, being a masochist, I am like, I love it. I don't
Well,
think,
you lived in New York during the pandemic, so you're tough.
and 20 years before that
Yeah,
also.
exactly.
So I know all about masochism. So that sounds misleading, by the way. But one thing that Chris and Dave and I didn't mention when we were chatting with you last time is that we had to cut 100 pages.
Oh yeah.
That was probably one of the biggest challenges I've had in my professional career. and and I've had to help plan NFL draft parties. So uh it was it was a living nightmare to do
Yep.
that
Yep.
while also keeping the sentences in the book readable. You can't cut a
Yep.
chapter, you can't cut a paragraph, you have to go sentence by sentence.
Yep. Yep.
And it
Yep.
was, Chris and I barely made it through that time, but we did. So,
Well, let me ask you, obviously a lot of our followers are writers, are either wannabe writers, or published writers, or best-selling writers, all kinds of writers. Um, what if someone finishes their book and they want to start the editorial process themselves? Of course, you always do. You edit your stuff the best you can, but then you get somebody else to look at it. What's the three or four things you would say are the most critical things that an author has to look at when they go back through that second and third pass through?
that's a great question. Well, our boy Elmore
Mm,
would say,
yeah.
kind of keep it brief. Sadly,
Yeah.
I
Cut out
don't
the
always,
stuff people skip. Yes.
yeah, you can tell brevity is not my biggest strong suit, and
Right.
that lends itself to my
Right.
writing. But I would say, I mean, you fall into that trap of never letting your book go because you're going through, I mean, every time you go through it, you're going to find something, you're going to hate
Right.
something, so you want to first and foremost not fall into that trap.
Right.
Um, I think that once you've kind of gone through your drafts and you're feeling confident about it, I think the first thing to do would be to give it to somebody who will give you a kind of combination, if you can find somebody that will do this developmental copy edit, meaning they
Right.
will look at the book, you know, in its whole and say, I love it, but your female characters don't have enough of a
Mhm.
voice, or this is too action heavy, or whatever the kind of overall
Yep.
feedback is. And then you're going to want somebody to kind of, trust me, you're going to want somebody to at least do a very basic copy edit slash
Right.
proofread,
Right.
because trust me, there will be a million things that you missed. And
Oh,
never rely
absolutely.
on word check or anything like that. I mean,
No.
you will miss things. When Chris and Dave and I passed in the book to Post Hill, Chris and I were like, we are so golden, like, there's not going to be one typo. And
Yep.
there were a billion.
Well,
So
it's interesting when I finish a book and the last thing I do with the last that I'm happy with is I go through and search for all the theirs and whos.
right. Oh, do you
You
really, is
know?
that your final
Yeah,
thing?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
of
the
course.
final thing I do because it's so easy to get the wrong there and the
Yes,
wrong whos,
yes,
and a few other words. And you have to really, because they all sound the same in your head and
of
you know what you're
course.
saying,
Yes,
but is that the way? And you got to highlight, you search, find, okay, is this the one I want? Yes, 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 yes.
yes.
No, I got to change that. It
It's
happens all the time.
it's maddening. It really
It is.
helps as a writer if you have OCD.
You have to, I
It
think.
really,
Yes.
really does. And then also sometimes you're looking at things so often that even if you're at your best and you've had, 4 cups of coffee and you're just
Hmm.
sharp as a tack, you're just gonna miss it.
Yep.
You're human, there's no way around it. But to this day, I mean, like I said, when the book was finally published, Chris and
Hmm.
I were texting for like a week, like page 14,
Hmm.
missed
I know.
period
I
on,
know.
and
That's why I never read one of my books once it's published because I'd tried that once and I was infuriated because I
yes,
found a dozen things like, oh my God, I can't believe that got, and it went through a couple of different editors. It,
yes,
it just
exactly.
happens.
And you
It's
don't know
human
where to
nature.
direct the anger, but I
No,
mean, at yourself, but it's
ultimately at
still,
yourself. Yes, it's
but you
your,
know, it does it make you feel better? I'm in the middle of reading, and I'm obviously not going to say the author, but they're
right.
like a hero of mine. And I've seen a couple typos, and this is somebody who's got the best editors, the biggest
Hmm.
publisher, and I have found this, it's like the best day ever when I find a typo in the New Yorker. It has
Yeah.
happened.
But
It
even
is,
they zone out. I mean,
yes.
you're at 80,000 words and you kind of, okay, I want to get this
Yeah.
over with. Yeah,
You're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
just publish it already.
It's
When did
great.
you start?
Just
So
publish.
you started, I mean, you yourself have pretty much the most, I always like to think that I have this incredibly diverse and esoteric background, but you just have an unbelievable background. I love that you can take your medical school training and put all of that into your books. Um, but how did you, I mean, when did you write your first book?
Oh,
Not to date you, but
no, probably I started like 30 years ago, and
yeah,
I was an adult. I was in
yeah,
practice. I was working 80 hours a week,
yeah,
and I always said I have all these stories in my head, and when I retire, I will write them. Well,
right.
I didn't retire until right at 1 year ago from medicine. So I stayed in medicine a long time, 57 years total. But
Wow.
from the time I started medical school to the time I walked away, um, I finally just one day said, if not now, when?
Yeah.
So I went to University of California, Irvine, took a couple of night classes, and then just started writing.
How did
You
you
know,
find the time with your 80
Well,
hours?
then it was very hard back then because I literally was working. I practiced cardiology, so
Yeah.
you're up in the the cath lab and the ER and the ICU and running around in the middle of the night and all the time, and you would just make time to do it because you wanted to. Once I said, okay, I'm gonna pull the trigger on this, then it became part of life. It wasn't a dream
Yeah.
anymore. You're going to do this. Of
Did
course,
you
my
have a
first book was awful. It took 10 years and 27 rewrites and it finally got published. But right out of the blocks, it was terrible. I
right.
thought it was great,
Right.
but I didn't know how to write.
Did you have a and do you have a very rigid writing schedule,
No,
especially now that you're okay, so it's just when the
no.
inspiration
When I
strikes.
feel like it, I do. And when I don't, I
I'm
don't.
so glad that that is you
No,
because I always feel like I'm lacking or I'm some kind of imposter because I don't have that like I'm that
no,
exact routine of like I lock myself
no.
in my, you know,
Yep.
lighthouse attic and only sit at my desk from like 6 a.m. till 10 and
No.
then okay.
I always said I have a job. If I'm going to start this madness, it's going to be fun. It's going to be playtime. It's not
Right.
going to be that if I don't want
Right.
it to turn into a job. And
Right.
I still don't look, even though it's a lot of work, as you well know, it takes thousands of hours, and then plus running outliers, and then plus all the other things that I do in the marketing, all the things you got to do as a writer. It is a job. It becomes a job whether you want to do it or not. But
Yeah.
I don't look at it as that. I look at it as fun time. This is playtime. So
Yeah.
if I rigidly had to go somewhere and you got to get up at I always get up at 5 anyway, about there. If you got to, but 6 o'clock, you got to
Ooh.
start writing and you got to write till 10 or 12 or whatever. I would hate it.
Yeah.
No, 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 no. Let me do this when
Yeah.
I want to do it.
Right. It would become drudgery and then
Exactly.
that
Exactly.
would kind of
So
take the
that's,
fun out of it.
yeah.
I hear you. The other
So
thing
do you edit fiction also?
I would, yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
okay.
I'm
Oh,
dying to do fiction next, actually.
okay.
I'm pondering what my next kind of big thing will be. I like to write fiction
Oh,
quite a bit, as you can tell, because of my love for short stories and
yep.
Elmore.
Yes.
Um, and you're a short story person too,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yep. I got a
What
couple in the pipeline. I think I've got 7 or 8 out in
really?
different publications. Yeah. And I'd never written a short story until ITW did this thing called Love is Murder that Sandra Brown, and I love Sandra. She was going to be the editor of. And I figured, well, if Sandra's going to be the editor of this would be something cool to do. I'd never written a short story in my life.
Did you
And
find it more difficult than you expected?
in many respects, yes, obviously
Yeah,
it's less time consuming because it's not 100,000 words, but
right.
as far as the intensity of it, you better believe
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I just turned one in for an anthology called Rough Country in Texas. It's got to be set in Texas. And
Ooh,
I set mine in 1955 in West Texas in a little place. But the point is that I probably rewrote that and spent a month. I wrote it fairly quickly because I knew the
yeah,
story. I had it kind of in my head. Then I went back and massaged it and changed it. And then I let it sit. And then I went back and massaged it and changed it. And then I went back through it 4 or 5 more times, cleaning it up and changing it, just a few little things and getting the rhythm right. You
yeah,
spend a lot of time on 5,000 words. If you
yeah.
spent that much time on a 100,000 word novel, you'd never get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're hard.
I have always been drawn to short stories. I
Yes.
don't know why. It's not like I have a short attention span or anything, but growing up, I mean, first of all, The Lottery, I will ne I wish I could go back in time and read Shirley Jackson's The Lottery for the
Oh,
first time.
yes. Yes.
I wish that more than anything because I mean, I remember my jaw dropping at the end there. It's just so brilliantly written, and she's become one of my favorite authors. But
For me, it was two Hemingway short stories, The Killers, which
Yeah,
blew me away as a
yeah,
kid, and The Snows of Kilimanjaro. I mean,
yeah.
if you want, I always tell everybody, if you want to know how to handle flashbacks
He's
and handle
another
them
one with it.
seamlessly and fun, read
Yeah.
Kilimanjaro.
He's another one with the brusque, the short dialogue. Just
Yes.
keep it quick. Did you ever read? I was talking about this with somebody recently. I'm not a huge sci-fi person, but another, I guess I have a thing for macabre short stories. I don't know
Mhm.
how this, but The Veldt by Ray Bradbury.
No, but I've heard it's amazing.
Oh, it's so good. And
Okay.
you can, I've sent it to people online before, so you can just Google it and the whole story is there. I mean, it's quite short. It's a short, even by short story standards, but oh, it's a good one. I had your bedtime reading tonight. I don't want to give you nightmares, but
Yeah, I get them anyway. No, I really don't.
okay.
I don't remember dreams, and I sleep pretty good, even if it's only for 5 hours. But I sleep pretty
Well,
good.
that's too bad you don't remember dreams because I bet you'd have some pretty good ones.
Occasionally, something, bits and pieces. I say, well, that was weird, but
Right.
I don't dwell on it. It's not a world I live in.
Well, at nighttime you live in
Well,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's
Are you still a baseball person?
oh yeah, Yankees, baby. I know you're a Red Sox.
Oh,
I grew up a
what?
Yankees fan
How did that happen?
because of Mickey Mantle.
Okay,
I played center field.
valid.
I played ball a lot of ball growing up. But
So
anyway.
where were you in 2004?
I don't know, but I can tell you the starting lineup of the Yankees in 1960, and I can't tell you a single player on any team right now.
Yeah, no,
You see a name on the news, and it's usually they hit 2 home runs or they got arrested for drug possession. Yeah, I can't tell you anybody on any team right now except the dozen big names, and I don't care.
right. I
Yeah,
hear you.
I
You
don't
go
care.
through
And I grew
phases.
up loving baseball.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, like I said,
But now it's highlight. They change uniforms every year.
yeah,
Nobody stays with the team more than a couple of years. Then they get more money and go somewhere else. Who cares?
I
Leave.
know.
Yeah,
I
get out of here.
Oh man, you are mad at this visual. Well, I
Yeah,
hope someday you come to Boston and you get to come over because having moved from New
I'd
York
love
City,
to.
I finally have an apartment with like actual
Okay.
space in it. So I have all my things from my old ESPN office, and
We love Boston.
I love Boston. I'm so glad that I moved back. It took me forever, but it's the best thing that I ever did. I couldn't be any happier. And I live a 10-minute walk from Fenway, not your dream
Not my
location.
dream, no. It's
Pretty
okay.
awesome, pretty awesome for me. But offline, we'll have to talk about the 2004 ALCS because I was
Yes.
at games one, two, and six, six being the bloody
Yeah.
sock game with
Yeah.
Kurt Schilling, and
Yeah.
I barely made it out alive. And I'm dead serious, dead serious. That was a precarious situation, very
Well,
precarious.
we could talk all day, but we
Yeah,
better get off of here. What
yeah,
I want to know is you do want to get into the fiction world, so I want people to be able to reach you and send their manuscripts and their short stories. Get them edited because you're going to send them to magazines. You're going to send them to anthologies that people are looking for good short stories all the time, and it's
yeah,
a great way to master your chops in writing. So if you're interested in that, you're a resource for people who need to have it, who have all that
absolutely.
editing. So where would people reach you and find the books you've edited and learn more about you? And
They can reach me at my very originally titled website, jessicabalboni.com.
yes, it's the way it's supposed to be.
Yes, so they can reach me there, they can email me there. And there's also, of course, afterescobar.com. So they can,
Right.
if they're on there to buy the book or to email Chris or Dave or something, they can get me there as well.
And we'll post that when we post all
Thank
these so
you.
people see the
I
link and they can
appreciate
pop
that.
right on it. Uh, Jessica, been fantastic.
It's
Been
always so much
fantastic.
fun. It's always
Yeah,
so
yeah,
much fun
yeah,
talking to
yeah,
you. It
yeah.
really is. Thank
So
you.
we will do it again.
Yes. And
All
say
right,
hi to
everybody.
Kathleen for me.
Yeah, I will. This has been the great, the irrepressible Jessica Balboni, and we appreciate her spending her time with us. So that'll wrap up this edition of Get to Know here on the Outliers YouTube and podcast series. And as you know, we will be back in the future with other interviews and stuff. So till then, keep reading, keep writing, keep having fun, and try not to get caught.